All right, we are here with BJ Strass, and he's going to talk to us today about recumbent bike seat fixes. So, BJ, how you doing today?
Very good, Gary. Thanks for having me on.
It's a pleasure. All right, I think maybe we'll open up, if we could, BJ, with your recumbent history. You've got quite an interesting one. Can you tell us a little bit about the background you have with recumbents?
Sure, Gary. To my knowledge, I had the first recumbent bike shop in Sacramento, California, opened the first one there, and had that for a few years. I began riding about 1991 and handled then when I transitioned into my small shop, I sold different brands. That's a Rand's Rocket there, one of the earliest ones. It has a square tube frame, which those are pretty rare. So I sold Rands, I sold Vision. That bike there is my first recumbent that I built from a frame set. Sold Easy Racers, Linear, et cetera, et cetera. This particular photo was at the Inner Bike Show, where I bought one of the very first Rands V-Rexes directly from the Schlitter brothers, right off the floor there. This photo is from a tour my wife and I did down the Pacific coast from Victoria, Canada to California. And she's riding one of the earliest Visions, and I was riding a Counterpoint Presto. And you can see how much stuff we're carrying. This was a later photo of a Vision R40 of mine, and I was leading a tour of about 10 riders through the Napa Valley wine country on this one. And that's the Counterpoint Presto, of which I rode down the Pacific coast with. And this was, I believe, in Davis, California, probably about 1995, where we were asked to bring our shop over essentially and set up at a festival there to show off the bikes. If I recall correctly, it was an alternative energy festival. And this bike is the Meridian, and this was a bike that I actually designed and built and sold on a very limited basis. This was number one. It was built with a 16-inch front wheel or 20-inch underseat remote link steering or direct, as this one is. And essentially, I would see what the customer wanted and then build the bike to their desire. This unusual looking thing was called a Golf E, and Bike E had sent me this person who wanted to have a human powered golf cart, essentially. And so I was contracted to build it. It's a Delta Track design. You can't tell in the photo, but the rear wheels are dual wheels. So it's two rims welded together with two tires on each side to keep it from sinking into the grass on golf courses. And on the back there is a rack to strap a golf bag on. This one was one of the many organized event rides that my wife and I and also some riding friends did. And I believe this was the Delta Century, which took place in the Central Valley, south of California, or south of Sacramento in California.
All right, BJ, great. Interesting. What was the name of your store in Sacramento?
The store I had in Sacramento was Introspect Cycle, and then later I took over management of Atlantic Bicycle in Margate, Florida, which is in the Fort Lauderdale area. And then after that, I went to work for Bike E Corporation in Corvallis, Oregon.
Right, the ill-fated Bike E, as it turns out. So
yeah. I was supposedly the last employee of Bike E.
All right. Let's get to the issue at hand, and that is the seat repair. How did you get involved with repairing or fixing recumbent seats?
Well, it was kind of out of necessity, out of being extremely cheap in some ways, and having the ability to do a lot of different things. I picked up a recumbent that I needed a seat for, and it was a good used Vision, but the mesh seat on it was completely deteriorated, and of course Vision at this point has been out of business for around 20 years, and so I had a little upholstery hobby, that I had redone a couple of RVs and some other things on the side, and out of necessity, I made my own seat, and it worked out pretty well. And someone on the bike trail had seen it and said, "Well, could you do one for me?" And it was for a different type of bike, and I did that. And if you're familiar with Bob Bryant, the former editor of Recumbent Cyclist News, he's a good friend of mine, and I was telling him about that, and he said, I think there's a big need out there for this type of thing. You should try to put the word out there. And I also have a tech background, so I threw up a website and started taking orders and let the word get around. And that was about 2.5 years back, I guess.
Wow, nice. All right. Well, let's start talking about the actual services that you perform on these seats. Can you tell us about what you can do for the folks, the customers?
Well, primarily, I make new seats for recumbents, virtually any recumbent, and these are all custom seats that I design, and I try to design the seats so that it doesn't have the drawbacks that many of the original seats do. So in making improvements on them, I've also do custom seat pads and have done a few of those for people that had special physical needs for one reason or another. And I can make sure that in a new seat that it is stronger in some areas. Also, I do some repair of a few seats. Most seats are too old to really do a good repair on, but a repair and modification, I can repair panniers, other bags, and other soft gear for recumbents. And like I said, on occasion on seats that can be repaired, I can fix split seams or rips or tears in those.
Sounds good. Now, what sorts of brands can you handle? There's plenty of old recumbent brands out there. What ones have you handled, and what can you do there?
Sure, Gary. The seats I do the most of are for Vision recumbents. Vision, from my knowledge, Vision was the #2 selling recumbent in their heyday in the world. And so there's a lot of those out there, and they all use the sling mesh type seats, or the hammock style seats, as some call. So about 70% of the seats I make are for Visions. But I can do one for virtually any recumbent out there. And I've actually done some seats for a couple of custom kayaks as well. Excuse me. Probably the most unusual seats I've done are for the original Avatar 2000, which was the first production recumbent in the United States back in the 70s. And I've also been doing some seats for the ELF or ELF, Organic Transport Hybrid Pedal Electric Car. It has a tube frame for the seat. Essentially, I can make a seat for it. Some type of sling mesh seat for it, or seat back, say like the Rans or the Easy Racers cool back seats where they have the foam bottom and the mesh backs. I do quite a lot of those as well.
Excellent. Okay. Now, how about the features of the seats that you fix? Tell us about what are the top features of them?
Okay. Well, on my new seats, I have some primary features, which I have, I guess you could say, kind of developed to help solve or to enhance my seat over the original in many ways. And one of the primary is what I call the dish. And the dish is kind of a contour at the back of your butt. Most recumbent seats are sewn from a flat panel. And so at the back of your bottom, the seat is flat, and eventually it may stretch some, but it will never entirely fit. And so I sew in a contour into that. Now, some like Vision have done that, but certainly most recumbents do not. Another feature is that my seat is a lace-on design. And the benefit of a lace-on design is that, like sneakers, wearing shoes with laces, once you tie them and you use them, it will adjust itself to your foot as you're walking and using them. So the recumbent seat, that's a lace-on design, will as well. The problem with past recumbent lace-on seats is that they use grommets. Grommets are metal. They eventually will pull away from the material. So I came up with a lace loop design, is what I call. And I borrowed this, so to speak, from some high-end running shoes I had seen. And they are webbing loops that are sewn into the back of the seat. So one, they don't pull away as grommets will. My lace loops have a 2-inch surface area of pull tension, whereas a grommet has about a 1/2 inch. And also the lace loops, because they're webbing, they can conform around the seat braces or cross tubes, et cetera, et cetera. So that's one. Number two is something I call a torque strap. Now, some recumbents will have the seat mesh very tight. And the reason for that is so you don't lose performance when you're accelerating or pedaling hard or climbing, because you will get a flex out of the seat. However, the drawback to that is that if the seat mesh is very tight, it doesn't conform to your body very well. And so you lose comfort. My solution for that is that with the lace loop, you can leave that taut, not super tight, so it will conform to your body. But I have a feature I call a torque strap. And the torque strap is a very heavy duty webbing strap that completely encompasses the seat frame, sewn to the back of the seat mesh, about the lumbar area. And it has a heavy duty buckle. So when you install my seat, you tighten that torque strap nice and snug, very tight. And it gives you some lower back support, some lumbar. In fact, I sew it on in such a way that if someone wants more lumbar support, they can purchase a seat pad, or I'm sorry, a seatbelt pad for their car, with the shoulder pad, and slip it over, and that gives more support. The biggest benefit of the torque strap is that when you're climbing or accelerating, you push into your lower back, and that helps to transfer your power to a stronger part of the seat frame. And also you lose less power from the flexing of the seat mesh. And then the third part is, as I said before, the dish in the seat. And there are other features in there which I will tailor to that particular brand or that particular seat. Like in some areas, I will put a wear patch to where if on the original seat it tended to wear through, I would put a reinforcement in that area. So
very good. All right. BJ, are there some customizations that you can do if a customer wants particular options for these seats? Can you accommodate them?
Sure, Gary. I have some, I guess you would say, standard options, and I have two different styles of seat mesh. They are the exact same brand of seat mesh and the same material, and it's a very high quality mesh. It's quite expensive, but one is a higher density. And I generally will only recommend that for very heavy riders, very, very strong riders, or riders that will use their bike in extreme weather situations. The standard mesh flows air better because the weave is not as tight, but that is an option. I can also do special reinforcements for stronger or heavier riders. I do seat bottom pads out of various foam materials, and I also have a very rare honeycomb gel material, which will actually flow air and moisture straight through it, but give you the comfort of a gel pad. And then, as I'd said before, I can do special customizations for people that have special needs. One of the things I virtually always do is when someone shows interest in one of my seats, I call them and talk to them. We have a conversation about what they need in a seat.
I love the personalized service there. That makes all the difference.
Thank you.
All right, BJ, let's hone in a little bit into the actual work that you do and how it's done. I'd love to take a close look at this. I think we've got a video that we can show. Can you tell us about the process of fixing these seats?
Sure. Well, in this video, I am making a new Ram seat back, and as you can see, it has the lips on the side. And it also has that large strap there in the center or toward the bottom. That is the torque strap, which I'd mentioned earlier. And all of my seats are sewn a lot. They have a lot of stitching in them to give extra reinforcement in as many areas as possible. But also, I try to make sure that in areas where the seat could create let's see, a bit of irritation, maybe on the stock seat, is that doesn't happen with my seats.
Very good. All right, so let's look at how you lay this out. I think we have a shot here. Yeah, tell us about the layout process, how this all works.
Sure. Well, this is my standard mesh, and as you can see, it's fairly opaque, so it flows air very well, but amazingly, it doesn't stretch all that much. And so in doing a seat for a customer, it can vary from, let's say, like a vision seat. So on a vision seat, I have some cardboard templates. I pull those out, I put those on, mark them off, make my cuts, and then we'll start making the seat. But on something that's more rare, say like the Avatar 2000, I can work off of measurements and photos from the bike owner, or they can send me the original seat and I can use it. But I do my layout with my design, and you can see the back here of the seat with my design. It has the lower, this is a Rands once again, and has the lower lace, it has the torque strap, then it has the upper lacing on there. And that's the front view of the Rands seat. This particular shot is a Lightning P38. I've been doing a few more of those seats as the word's gotten around. And my seat design is considerably different from the original. From what some riders have been telling me is that their seats don't last very long. They're ripping out. And so my design uses the heavy duty mesh, but it also has reinforcements and more adjustments to make the seat fit the seat frame better.
All right, great, BJ. So if you could, then let's take a look at a summary then of this process.
Sure. On this particular seat, this was for a slipstream, a long bike slipstream. And so on my seat, it has the wraparound design. Some recumbents have that, some do not, but it wraps around to the back. And then you can see where the green arrow also is for the dished seat bottom. And this seat was not dished originally. And so it has the contour sewn into the seat bottom that is pre-fit to the back of a rider's bottom. This next one you can see from the back, it shows the lace loops and also the torque strap and the way the seat is laced on. And you can also see how it conforms to the crossbars on the seat without having to leave a huge uneven gap from the lacing. It will just conform around to where it needs to go.
Excellent. All right. Well, I see right over your left shoulder the amazing sewing machine that you use, and there's a couple other pieces of equipment that you use. Tell us what you do with each of these pieces of equipment and how they're used.
Okay. Well, this machine is actually not the one I'm using currently. I recently switched over. I've constantly strive to get a machine that will do the better job for my particular need. And this one did a great job, but the one I'm using now does even better. And these machines are incredibly, incredibly expensive. And then I have to specially set them up. So I buy them used. I've taught myself to refurbish them and then set them up specifically for what I do. This machine is a very unusual looking item. It is a Chinese-made clone of a late 1800s shoe patching machine. And the idea is that you can slip a boot or a shoe over this machine and sew a patch into the toe of it. And I've modified it and specially set it up. And yes, it is a hand crank machine so that I can get inside of panniers and bags and such to be able to repair a seam or sew a patch on without having to take the entire item apart and then reconstruct it. And this machine, I just love this old machine. This is about a 1945 Singer model, and it was a machine that was very popular with the Navy during World War II for making sails and riggings. And this is my backup machine. I can sew seats perfectly well on it. It's just not nearly as fast, as it does not have a reverse. And the bobbin, the bottom thread capacity on it's quite a lot smaller than my primary machine, the one behind me here.
All right. Well, I don't think we can complete this story properly without showing some before and after pictures. But right before we get to that, tell us a little bit about what you do. This is a new ice seat that you have made modifications to. Is that right?
Yeah, what I did was on the ice trikes, the wonderful British trikes, the seat mesh is one of the many that are sewn out of one flat panel. And so, in making a new seat for it, I have used my design with the lace loops with the torque strap, but the big feature on this one is the contour, the dish at the back of the rider's bottom. Um, and this works particularly well on the ice trike seats because the seating area, the bottom area on these trikes is very short. And doesn't always fit a larger American anatomy very well. So this allows the rider to sit back as much as an inch and a half farther. Because I had the old original seat on this, I took the embroidered logo, cut it out of the top, turned it into a patch, and then sewed it onto the top for the seat.
Very nice. All right, now let's look at some older seats that you have worked on, and let's compare and contrast.
Sure. This was the photo of the old seat was one that the writer has sent me and said, well, this is my original seat. And of course, it's original vision seat, so it's 20 or more years old. And it was coming apart. And so the seat on the right is one of my replacements. And this replacement is in the high density mesh. The photo on the left, the older seat, is a Rand seat back, probably about a 2002, 2003. So obviously it's quite old as well. And then on the right is my new seat back on it. And I've also put on this particular seat, I rebuilt the entire seat. I put a new Rand seat pad on it and a new seat bottom cover.
Very good. All right. Now, let's talk specifics about the customer's experience here. Can you tell us about pricing and how the shipping works? They have to send it to you, you have to send it to them, and the turnaround time these days.
As far as pricing, for a full seat, it starts out at $165 with no options. And as far as a seat back, it's according to the model, but the least expensive are the bikey with the short back, and they start out at about $75, $80. A Rand's seat back or a Easy Racer's cool back, they start at $125, and options go up from there. And this is plus shipping. I'm also doing international as well. I've had inquiries from Britain, and I've shipped a few seats to Canada. So I can do that. The shipping is whatever the price is for me to ship to those places. Domestic shipping is according to the size and what the options are, but it starts at around $14 on a seat, and it's a priority mail for the shipping on that. Turnaround time completely varies. I encourage people to order their seats during the cold weather for me, because that's when I'm doing most of my sewing. During the warm weather, I'm trying to get out and ride some and enjoy it. But the way I work it is I will put someone on what I call a pre-order list, and essentially it's a waiting list. And they say, yeah, I want to order a seat. So when my name comes up, let me know. And so when their name comes up, I usually take 3 to 4 people at a time off the pre-order list. We'll contact them, say, you still want a seat? Is this what you want? If it's yes, then I will invoice them through PayPal, electronic invoice. Once I get notification of that, they go onto the sewing list. And then on the sewing list, I really try to get seats out within a couple of weeks, but it can take as long as a month. It's all according to how materials are coming in at this time. As you know, with the supply and demand on virtually everything, but it's affected the bicycle industry as well. Prices are constantly changing, and the ability to get the things I need to make these seats varies. But I try to keep it around 2 weeks.
All right, BJ. And you mentioned you getting out to ride a little bit, and give us a quick update on what you're riding these days. And you've had some health issues to deal with as well, and that affect your riding. Tell us about that.
Sure. Well, I had Needed a knee replacement for a long time and was putting it off. And finally, a little under 2 years ago, had my knee replacement. And so this particular photo was my first event ride. My wife and I have always loved to do event rides. So this was our first event ride, and it was the Ride to End ALS, which is the Ride to End Alzheimer's in the Fort Collins area of Colorado. And I'm riding a new 2021 TerraTrike Rambler wide track in the photo there. I'm a pretty big guy, and so it's a big trike, and it fits me well. Unfortunately, it doesn't have my seat on it yet, making a new seat for it. I have a garage overflowing with various recumbents and recumbent trikes. And during the summer, when I find a little bit of extra time, I refurbish recumbents and resell them to people that can use them, and try to make it a couple of dollars and get them a bike at a good price as well.
Oh, that sounds great. Well, BJ, that's wonderful stuff. Thank you so much for sharing the interesting work that you do with the recumbent community here on Laid Back Bike Report. Can you tell us how folks can find out more or get a hold of you? What's the best way for them to do that?
Sure. Absolutely. The best way is to go through my website, which is Weebly, WEEBLY.recumbentseatfix.com. And it has examples of my seats. It has explanations of the seats and other services I offer. If I have any bikes for sale at the time, those will be there. And it has obviously the contact page where someone can contact me for information, and I can get back to them and we can discuss their seating needs.
Perfect. Well, of course, we are going to put that information in the description below for our viewers to be able to click on and get a hold of you and find out more about you. BJ Strass, thank you so much for spending a little time with us today. And we hope to talk again soon.
Well, thank you, Gary. It's been an absolute pleasure.